Welcome to the A Guiding Light 9/11 online podcast. Today we're going to be diving into A Guiding Light, Navigating Abuse, Alcoholism, and Addiction. It's a memoir by Dale P. And I think you'll find this one really captivating.
I think it's definitely a journey
Yeah.
with a lot of twists and turns. And right from the start, Dale acknowledges that staying sober is a constant battle even after years of being clean. And that really emphasizes the long-term impact of addiction and the need for ongoing support.
For sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of honesty, Dale includes a disclaimer right up front mentioning that names, locations, and some characteristics have been altered for privacy. You know, it's a good reminder that while we're going to hear some intense personal stories today, we need to approach them with respect and sensitivity.
Yeah, and I was struck by the dedication as well. It's to all the Georges in Dale's life. His father, brother, uncle, and cousin. He also mentions his other brothers, Leslie and Bradley, and several remarkable women. And that kind of hints at the powerful role relationships have played in his life. Yeah, for better or for worse.
Yeah, for sure. So let's jump into Chapter 1, where Dale takes us back to his childhood. Born in 1959 in Central California, the youngest of 4 boys, he paints a picture of family life that was anything but stable.
Right.
His father was an inventor, an entrepreneur. He even designed safety features for police cars.
Quite a contrast to his mother, a nightclub entertainer who played piano and sang.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how those two personalities even came together.
Right. It does seem like that clash of personalities created a pretty volatile environment.
Yeah.
Dale recounts some pretty disturbing incidents, like his father throwing a knife that almost hit him, and his mother threatening his father with a gun.
It's a sad reality that so many children are exposed to domestic violence. Statistics from Social Solutions show that 1 in 15 kids experience this every year. And those early experiences can have a lasting impact, shaping how you view relationships and conflict as you grow up.
Yeah, sadly, that wasn't the only challenge Dale faced. He was introduced to marijuana by his older brother at just 7 years old.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, most kids are just starting first grade at that age.
It's incredibly young. The CDC reports that nearly half of all high school students have used marijuana and 10% have tried cocaine. But in Dale's case, substance use started way earlier, which is a major red flag for potential addiction issues down the road.
Yeah, and things didn't get any easier for Dale. In Chapter 2, his parents separate, and then news arrives of his father's death. While Dale is consumed with grief, his brothers actually seem relieved, even advising him not to cry. It really speaks volumes about the complex dynamics within their family.
You know, it seems likely that there was an abusive element to the father's behavior that we're only getting glimpses of. It's heartbreaking to think about what those boys went through.
Yeah, and it's during this time of upheaval that Dale's alcohol use starts to escalate. He even describes an incident where his mother, finding him intoxicated, put him in a cold bath fully clothed.
Wow, it sounds like his mother was trying to shock him out of it. But it also speaks to her desperation. She was probably completely overwhelmed trying to cope with his behavior.
Yeah, and then comes Nikki.
Mm-hmm.
Dale meets her through a friend when he's just 12 years old. Nikki's 32.
Oh, wow.
Their relationship it's incredibly disturbing.
There's no other way to put it. A 20-year age gap at that stage of life is a huge red flag. It's a clear power imbalance, and Nikki takes full advantage of that.
Yeah. The book describes some really unsettling anecdotes. Nikki throws Dale a birthday party and hints at a special gift, which turns out to be sexual. Later, Dale moves in with her and witnesses her engaging in sex work in their home.
It's horrific. Dale is craving a mother figure, a stable presence in his life. But Nikki exploits those needs for her own gratification. This is textbook abuse.
Yeah, and the fallout is just as devastating. When Dale tells Nikki he doesn't want to have sex anymore, she becomes enraged and sleeps with his best friend, Josh. It's another betrayal, another blow to his sense of trust and safety.
The statistics from RAIN are tragically relevant here. Victims of child sexual abuse are 4 times more likely to develop substance abuse problems and experience things like PTSD and depression as adults. Dale's story sadly fits right into that pattern.
While all of this is going on, Dale also gets involved with a gang called the Nazi Lowriders.
Okay.
The name itself is pretty jarring. They wore these dopey sandals and Pendleton shirts. It seems like a strange style for a gang.
It's a weird juxtaposition, isn't it?
Yeah.
This seemingly harmless attire paired with the reality of gang violence, it shows how appearances can be deceiving.
One incident stands out in particular, the Woolworths robbery. Dale helps build and detonate a bomb, though it's made from smoke bombs and fireworks.
Okay.
Sounds almost comical. But this event shows how Dale is getting drawn deeper into a dangerous world.
Right.
He and his friends clearly didn't grasp the potential consequences of their actions.
Yeah, the whole thing backfires, of course. The bomb sets some merchandise on fire and ends up killing a bird and a hamster.
Oh, wow.
Tragic and ridiculous at the same time.
Yeah. There's an element of dark humor there, but it also highlights the recklessness and immaturity of their choices.
Right.
It's important to remember that this was the 1970s, a time when gangs were spreading from urban areas into the suburbs. A Department of Justice report from that era confirms this trend. Vulnerable youth like Dale were prime targets for recruitment. And Dale continues to run into former gang members and witnesses even more violence. He describes a fight with a classmate connected to another gang and 2 separate incidents of sexual assault.
It's a bleak picture of the environment Dale is navigating. He's surrounded by aggression, exploitation, and danger. It's no wonder he seeks escape through drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking to think about what he went through, especially as a teenager. And these assaults raise another important point. Teenagers can be perpetrators too. Rain reports that 15% of sexual assault perpetrators are juveniles and 11% use a weapon.
It's a sobering reminder that violence and abuse can come from unexpected sources. And it makes you wonder what those young perpetrators have been through themselves.
Then in Chapter 5, we meet Susan. Dale is infatuated with her. Their story takes a dark turn when they get into a car crash in Malibu Canyon after Dale takes heroin-laced pills.
Oh, wow. This car crash seems like a major turning point in Dale's life. It's a near-death experience that forces him to confront the consequences of his choices.
And it's here that things get really interesting. Dale recounts this strange experience during the crash, hearing a voice telling him everything will be okay and then seeing lights. He believes it was a supernatural event, but it could also be explained as shock or a psychological response to trauma.
It's definitely open to interpretation, but regardless of the explanation, it clearly had a profound impact on Dale. He describes it as a spiritual experience that changed his life.
If you're finding Dale's story resonating with you so far and want to learn more about his journey through recovery, be sure to check out his book, A Guiding Light, Navigating Abuse, Alcoholism, and Addiction, available on Amazon.
It's a powerful read that offers a raw and honest glimpse into the complexities of addiction and the path towards healing.
And that's where we'll leave it for part 1 of our deep dive into Dale's story. We've seen him go from a childhood marked by violence and substance abuse to a terrifying car crash that may have been a turning point. In part 2, we'll explore what happens next.
Yeah, it's fascinating how this near-death experience almost seems to be the catalyst for Dale to start making changes in his life.
Yeah, it's like it jolted him awake.
Yeah.
He ditches Cole, enters foster care, and his mother really tries to steer him away from those negative influences in his life.
It's interesting to consider the context here. A University of Oregon report from that time shows this surge in foster care placements during the 1960s and 70s.
Oh, wow.
This was partly due to changing social norms and an increased awareness of family dysfunction, so Dale's situation wasn't unique.
He actually describes locking himself in his room to avoid the gang, the drugs, the alcohol, everything.
Wow.
It's a simple act,
Yeah,
but a powerful symbol of his desire for something better.
for sure. There's also this incredible encounter with his brother, George. Dale gets punched, but just responds by saying, "God loves you." Later, George says he couldn't hit Dale again after that.
Wow. It's like Dale discovered a new kind of strength,
Yeah.
a resilience that even his brother couldn't break through.
Right.
It's the start of a real transformation.
Yeah.
He quits drugs and alcohol, starts excelling in school, and finds religion.
Talk about a 180.
Yeah.
This just goes to show you the power of human resilience and the potential for change, even when things seem incredibly bleak.
Next, we see Dale embarking on a trip to Europe with the Foreign Study League.
Okay.
It sounds like a dream come true, but there's a really unsettling element to it.
Yeah.
The counselor sponsoring Dale's trip makes some inappropriate advances toward the boys.
It's a reminder that even in the midst of incredible opportunities, vulnerability and exploitation can still exist.
Yeah.
It's so important to be aware of those power dynamics and to speak up if something feels wrong.
Despite that unsettling aspect,
Mhm.
Dale has some amazing experiences. He visits iconic landmarks, like the Tower of London, the Eiffel Tower, the Sistine Chapel, all these incredible places.
Those experiences must have broadened his horizons in so many ways.
Oh, yeah.
It's a reminder that the world is full of wonder and beauty, even when we're going through tough times.
He shares this one anecdote about Michelangelo's Pieta that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
He noticed that the Virgin Mary statue is missing some toes, worn down from centuries of people touching it.
Oh, wow.
It's a small detail, but it really makes you think about the power of human connection, even across time.
Right.
And it highlights the fragility of these treasures,
Yeah,
how important it is to preserve them.
for sure.
Dale eventually confronts the counselor, threatening him if he tries anything again.
Good for him.
It's a bold move that shows just how much Dale has grown.
Yeah.
He's not willing to be a victim.
It takes a lot of courage to stand up to someone like that, especially in a situation where you're dependent on them.
For sure.
Dale's actions are a testament to his newfound assertiveness and strength.
Then come Dale's college years, a time of academic success and personal challenges. He makes the dean's list and lands internships. But he continues to struggle with alcohol, especially on the weekends.
This internal conflict is something a lot of people can relate to, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It highlights the fact that addiction is a long-term battle with ups and downs.
Yeah.
It's not a straight line to recovery.
It's interesting to consider that only 5% of the U.S. population had college degrees back in 1982, according to the Census Bureau.
Wow.
So despite his struggles, Dale was accomplishing something significant.
It shows his intelligence and his potential.
Yeah.
Even while battling his demons, he was able to achieve something truly impressive.
Dale shares some hilarious anecdotes about his college life, too.
Okay.
Like the time he walked into a freshman mixer and asked who died, totally unaware that someone actually had passed away.
Classic. I can just imagine the awkwardness of that moment.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even amidst serious topics, life can be funny, too.
Right, yeah.
We need those moments of humor.
Dale also played football and pole vaulted in college, but his career was cut short by injury.
Oh, no.
His coach gave him some advice that really resonated.
Oh.
Don't dwell on what just happened. Focus on what lies ahead.
That's such wise advice, and it really seems to have stuck with Dale.
Yeah.
It's a reminder to focus on what we can control, not what we can't.
Sounds like his social life was pretty active, too. Dances, funk break events, basically parties where everyone danced to funk music.
Cool.
Dating the professor's daughter and a woman from Brazil.
It's great that he was embracing those experiences and connecting with people.
Yeah.
It shows a young man trying to find his place in the world to experience life to the fullest.
Then he lands an internship with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
He even gets to meet his Uncle Maurice, a retired four-star general, who gives him a tour of the Pentagon.
Talk about a contrast.
Yeah.
Here's Dale experiencing the world of prestige and power, yet he's still battling this internal struggle with alcohol. It shows how addiction can affect anyone, regardless of their background or accomplishments.
After college, Dale falls head over heels for a woman named Shasha, and they get married in a whirlwind romance.
It sounds passionate,
Yeah.
but those whirlwind romances can be tricky.
For sure.
They don't always leave room for the kind of deep connection and understanding that's needed for a lasting relationship.
Right, and it turns out that Shasha is still in love with the actor John Eric Hexum,
Oh, wow.
which definitely complicates things.
The heart wants what it wants.
Right.
But sometimes that can lead to messy situations, especially if everyone involved isn't being honest with themselves and each other.
Dale has this all-or-nothing approach to love, and unfortunately, his drinking starts escalating again.
Uh-oh.
They have a huge fight where Dale slaps Shasha, and the marriage ends soon after.
It's a reminder that unresolved personal issues, especially things like addiction and unhealthy relationship patterns, can sabotage even the most promising relationships.
Then comes Dale's second DUI.
Okay.
But before that happens, there are all these strange events.
Like what?
An owl nearly hits his car. He encounters a swarm of grasshoppers, and his girlfriend walks away from him at the bar.
It's like the universe was trying to warn him.
It's definitely open to interpretation.
Yeah.
But I think it highlights how sometimes we ignore those subtle signs that something is wrong, that we're headed down a dangerous path.
It's like that saying, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras.
Right.
We tend to look for the simplest explanation, even when something more complex might be going on.
Things go from bad to worse. When Dale gets fired from his job after his boss finds him passed out on the floor after a Super Bowl party.
Oh, no.
It's a huge wake-up call.
It's the kind of moment that forces you to confront the reality of your situation.
Yeah.
Dale's drinking has finally caught up with him in a very real, very painful way.
If you're finding Dale's story resonating with you so far and want to learn more about his journey through recovery, be sure to check out his book, A Guiding Light. Navigating Abuse, Alcoholism, and Addiction, available on Amazon.
It's a raw and honest account of the challenges and triumphs of overcoming addiction, offering hope and inspiration to those who may be struggling.
Dale's journey through AA is a major step towards sobriety.
Right.
It gives him that essential support system and a structure for addressing his addiction.
It's so important to have that sense of community and accountability when you're trying to overcome addiction.
Yeah.
You need people who understand what you're going through and can offer support and guidance.
He even gets remarried to a woman named Dawn, whom he meets at a sobriety celebration.
Oh,
There's a beautiful moment where Dale uses a cheesy pickup line that makes Dawn laugh.
yes.
It's a reminder that love and connection are still possible, even amidst struggles.
It's those little moments of joy and humor that can really sustain you during difficult times.
But Dawn has her own story to tell.
Oh.
She shares with Dale about how she used to self-harm to get pain meds.
It's a chilling reminder of how far people will go to numb their pain and escape their reality.
Yeah.
Addiction can drive you to do things you never thought possible.
Then comes marriage number 3.
Okay.
Dale meets Caroline at a karaoke bar.
Oh, fun.
They have a lot in common. Shared interests, a love of fun. They even enjoy going to strip clubs together.
It sounds like a pretty unconventional partnership.
Yeah, but it highlights the importance of finding someone who accepts and supports you,
Right.
flaws and all.
For sure.
And Dale's passion for cars really comes through in this part of the book.
Oh, yeah.
He customizes his 350Z and even gets it featured in Turbo magazine.
Cool.
He loves racing and pushing the limits.
It's a form of self-expression for him, a way to channel his energy and creativity.
Yeah.
And there's that element of risk-taking again, which could be connected to his addictive tendencies.
He even gets a ticket for running a red light because he did a burnout and the smoke was so thick he couldn't see the signal.
Classic Dale.
Yeah.
It's reckless, but there's a certain humor to it, too. It's like he can't quite shake that rebellious streak.
Unfortunately, Dale's third marriage ends in a heartbreak, too.
Oh, no.
Caroline falls for someone else and serves him divorce papers.
It seems like Dale is struggling to maintain those long-term commitments, which isn't uncommon for people who have experienced trauma and addiction.
Right?
Those early experiences can really impact your ability to trust and form secure attachments.
On top of that, he's hit with hefty alimony payments. Then his car gets shot up, creating even more financial strain.
Oh, wow.
It's a domino effect that leads to job loss, drug dealing, even homelessness.
It's heartbreaking to see how quickly things can spiral out of control when you're already vulnerable.
Yeah.
The stress and instability can make it almost impossible to stay on track.
And sadly, the cycle of DUIs continues.
Mm-hmm.
He gets his third DUI with a woman named Mandy, a karaoke host he'd befriended.
Oh, wow.
He actually described having a sense of foreboding before it happened, like he knew something bad was coming.
It's like that voice he heard in the car crash wasn't enough.
Right.
He's still caught in this pattern of self-destruction despite knowing the consequences.
Then come the second and third DUIs, each one a little more bizarre than the last.
It's like he's tempting fate at this point,
Mhm.
pushing the limits further and further each time.
Right.
It's a dangerous game to play.
One DUI happens after a motorcycle crash.
Gee.
Another involves expired tags. And there's even an incident where he seeks refuge in a closed bar to avoid the police after riding his motorcycle while intoxicated.
He's resourceful, I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But it's clear that his judgment is clouded by alcohol, and he's putting himself and others at risk.
His final arrest comes after a misunderstanding with his ex-wife's son-in-law, who reports him to the police.
Oh, wow.
Dale ends up spending the night in jail, which is a real eye-opener for him.
Jail can be a harsh reality check, forcing you to confront the consequences of your actions in a very direct way.
He describes the conditions in the holding cell as deplorables, highlighting the dehumanizing nature of incarceration.
It's a stark reminder of the flaws in our justice system and the need for reform, especially when it comes to addressing addiction and mental health issues.
But even in this awful situation, Dale finds a glimmer of hope.
How so?
He connects with a fellow inmate who happens to know some of Dale's friends.
It's a reminder that human connection can happen in the most unexpected places, even in the darkest of times.
And there's another one of those strange coincidences.
Okay.
Dale's bed number and account balance are both 72. He sees this as a sign,
Yeah.
a message from a higher power.
It's up to each individual to interpret those kinds of events.
Right.
Some might call it coincidence, others might see it as a divine message.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how our minds try to make sense of patterns and connections,
Yeah.
even in random events.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a way of finding meaning in a chaotic world.
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah.
We're always searching for meaning,
Right.
for purpose, for a
Yeah.
sense that our lives aren't just a series of random events.
Back in jail, Dale starts to worry about his job, but he can't contact his employer.
Oh, no.
It highlights the ripple effect of his actions, how his addiction is impacting every aspect of his life.
It's a reminder that addiction doesn't just affect the individual. It affects families, friends, employers. It's a web of consequences that spreads outwards.
He eventually appears in court and receives a 17-day sentence.
Okay.
It's a turning point in his story, a moment of accountability and a potential catalyst for real change.
It's like he's finally hit rock bottom. The
Yeah.
question is, can he use this experience to climb back up?
But then there's a twist.
What?
He's unexpectedly transferred to another county,
Oh, wow.
which throws him into a whole new environment with new challenges.
The uncertainty must have been overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like one step forward, two steps back.
Right.
And to top it all off, he discovers that his new cellmate is connected to his roommate,
Oh, wow.
which seems like another one of those strange coincidences.
It definitely leaves you wondering what that connection means. Is it a sign of good things to come or a warning of more trouble ahead?
It seems like Dale is constantly encountering these moments of synchronicity, these little nudges from the universe.
It makes you think about the role of fate versus free will.
Right.
Are our lives predetermined, or do we have the power to choose our own path?
Those are big questions.
They are.
And I think Dale's story offers a lot of food for thought. We've seen him go through some incredibly dark times, but there's always that glimmer of hope, that sense that he's being guided towards something better.
Yeah, it's almost like he's on this winding path, constantly being redirected,
Yeah.
sometimes toward danger, sometimes towards something positive. Makes you wonder if we're all on a path like that.
That's a profound thought.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the idea that maybe there are no accidents, that everything happens for a reason, even the painful experiences.
Dale doesn't reveal exactly how this connection plays out, which is a bit frustrating.
But it's a great cliffhanger that makes you want to pick up the book and find out what happens next.
It's definitely a clever way to end this section of the book.
Yeah.
It leaves the reader with a sense of anticipation and a desire to learn more.
Before we dive into the rest of Dale's story, I want to remind you that if his experiences are resonating with you, his book, A Guiding Light, Navigating Abuse, Alcoholism, and Addiction, is available on Amazon.
It's a powerful testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome adversity and find redemption.
It is.
Yeah.
So getting back to Dale's journey, he ends up serving his 17-day sentence and is eventually released from jail.
Okay.
This experience, as harsh as it was, seems to be another turning point for him.
Yeah.
He realizes that he needs to make some serious changes in his life.
It's like that saying, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to bounce back up.
Yeah.
Jail was his rock bottom. It forced him to confront the consequences of his actions and to recognize that he was on a destructive path.
He starts attending AA meetings, regularly commits to sobriety, and even finds love again with a woman named Caroline,
Oh.
whom he marries in a fun ceremony at the Elvis Wedding Chapel in Las Vegas.
It's heartening to see him find love again, especially with someone who shares his interests and supports his recovery.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the fact that even after making mistakes and going through difficult times, you can still find happiness and build healthy relationships.
But Dale's journey isn't without its bumps.
Right.
He relapses a few times,
Yeah.
highlighting the ongoing nature of addiction and the challenges of staying sober long term.
It's important to remember that relapse is often part of the recovery process.
Right.
It doesn't mean that someone has failed. It means they need to reassess their strategies and recommit to their goals.
And he faces financial struggles, relationship issues, job instability.
Yeah.
It's a constant uphill battle.
It's a reminder that life doesn't magically become perfect once you start on the path to recovery.
Right.
There will still be challenges and setbacks. The key is to develop coping mechanisms and build a support system that can help you navigate those tough times.
Despite all of this, Dale continues to fight for his sobriety, demonstrating incredible resilience and determination.
Yeah.
He finds solace in his spirituality, his love for his family, and his passion for cars.
It's inspiring to see him find those sources of strength and meaning in his life.
It is.
It's those things that can help us stay grounded and motivated when things get tough.
In the end, Dale's story is one of hope, redemption, and the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity.
Absolutely.
He shows us that it's never too late to turn your life around and find peace and happiness.
His story is a powerful reminder that we all have the capacity for change and growth no matter what we've been through.
If you'd like to dive deeper into Dale's journey and learn more about his insights on recovery, be sure to check out his book, A Guiding Light: Navigating Abuse, Alcoholism, and Addiction, available on Amazon.
It's a book that will stay with you long after you finish reading it.
It is. It's a raw, honest, and ultimately uplifting read.
It is.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into A Guiding Light 911 online podcast.
It was my pleasure.
We hope you found Dale's story as powerful and inspiring as we did.